Hello, students! Today, we're going to explore a very interesting and important topic from our chapter on control and coordination. We'll be looking at something our bodies do automatically, these super fast responses called reflex actions.
All right, to get started, let's think about a situation that I'm sure all of us have experienced at some point in our lives. So, have you ever accidentally touched something really hot? Like a flame from a candle or maybe a hot pan on the stove? Just imagine, maybe you're in the kitchen and your hand just touches a hot vessel by mistake. What happens next? Think about it. You pull your hand back instantly, right? It happens so fast, you don't even have to think about it. And what's really strange is, you often feel the actual pain, that burning sensation, only after your hand is already pulled away and safe. The action is literally quicker than the feeling. So, this brings us to a really fascinating question, doesn't it? How does our body do that? How can you react so quickly, even faster than your own brain can think about it? Let's find out exactly how this happens. Well, this incredible ability to react instantly is all thanks to a special mechanism in our body. And to understand it, we first need to define what's actually happening here in scientific terms. This process is called a reflex action. So, what is a reflex action? It's an immediate and involuntary response to a sensory stimulus. Now, the key word here is involuntary. That means it's not in our conscious control. We don't decide to do it. To put it very simply, it is an action we perform without thinking. Let me repeat that. A reflex action is an immediate and involuntary response we make without even thinking about it. Remember that definition, it's very important. So, how on earth does this action without thinking actually work? Well, it happens because the nerve signals take a very special shortcut, a very specific pathway. You can think of it like our body's own emergency wiring system. This special pathway is called the reflex arc. Now, please pay close attention to this, because understanding the reflex arc is very important for your exams. It has 5 main components. Let's go through them one by one. First, we have the receptor. This is what detects the stimulus, like heat in our example. Second, the sensory neuron. This nerve carries the message from the receptor. Third, the message reaches the spinal cord. This is the main processing center for the reflex. Fourth, from the spinal cord, a new message is sent out through the motor neuron. And finally, fifth, this message reaches the effector, which is the muscle that actually contracts and pulls your hand away. Okay, now let's look at this diagram together and trace this entire path. See the hand? The heat is first detected by receptors in the skin. From there, the signal, which is like a tiny electrical impulse, travels along the sensory neuron all the way to the spinal cord. Now look closely at what happens inside the spinal cord. The signal is immediately passed on to a motor neuron. This motor neuron then carries the instruction back out all the way to the muscle in your arm. That muscle is the effector. It contracts and poof, your hand is pulled away. It's a very, very fast and direct route. Now, you might be wondering, wait a minute, why the spinal cord? Isn't the brain supposed to be our body's main control center? Why doesn't the signal just go straight to the brain? That's an excellent question, and the answer tells us something amazing about how our body is designed. The answer is simple: speed. It's all about saving time. You see, thinking is a very complex process. For the brain to receive a signal, process it, think about what to do, and then send instructions back, well, that takes time. It might only be a fraction of a second, but in a dangerous situation, that's too long. If we had to wait for the brain to make a decision, our hand would get badly burned. This slide shows the difference perfectly. Look at the thinking path on the left. The signal has to travel from the hand, up the nerves, to the spinal cord, then all the way up to the brain, and then the command has to travel all the way back down. It's a long journey, isn't it? Now, look at the reflex path on the right. It's so much shorter. The signal just goes from the hand to the spinal cord, and the command comes right back. The spinal cord acts as a shortcut, making the decision on its own. This saves critical time and, of course, prevents serious injury. And, this amazing system is not an accident. It's a product of evolution. There's a reason for it. As the textbook says, reflex arcs have evolved in animals because the thinking process of the brain is not fast enough. It's a super efficient mechanism that's literally designed to help us survive. Okay, so this brings up a very common question that students have. If the spinal cord is making the decision, does that mean the brain is completely left out? Does it know what's going on at all?
No, the brain isn't completely uninvolved. It does get the message, but it gets it a little later. You see, while the spinal cord is busy executing that super fast reflex to pull your hand away, a copy of that message is also sent up to the brain. And that's why you eventually feel the pain and realize, oh, I touched something hot. But the important thing to remember is the timing. The action happens first to keep you safe. The awareness, the feeling of pain, that comes after.
All right, so now that we have a good understanding of these automatic reflex actions, let's quickly compare them to the other type of actions our body performs, the voluntary actions, the ones we actually think about and control. This table makes the comparison very clear. Let's go through it. First, let's look at control. A reflex action is involuntary. We don't control it. But a voluntary action, like picking up a pen to write, is completely in our control. Next, speed. Reflexes are instantaneous. They're super fast. Voluntary actions are naturally slower because they require thought. And finally, the most important difference, the main center. For a reflex action, the control center is the spinal cord. But for a voluntary action, the boss is the brain.
So let's do a quick recap of the most important points we've learned today. First, reflexes are fast, automatic actions that are there to protect us. Second, the signal for a reflex travels along a special pathway called the reflex arc. Third, the spinal cord is the main control center for reflexes, not the brain. And fourth, the brain is informed about what happened, but only after the action is already complete. These are the key points to remember.
So we see how the spinal cord plays such a crucial role in protecting us. But it's just one part of our amazing nervous system. In our next session, we're going to move on to the master controller of the entire body. We will explore the human brain in detail. Thank you for listening.